What's up everyone? Today's video is going to be on the changes that went live on Global Lab July 7th. These changes are a new rework for Awakened Ninja that they thought would hopefully fix some of the problems that Awakened Ninja currently suffers with. And this started with a small showcase of the rework guild called Chaos Spree that they showed during the BO Festa event that week. And these changes didn't really get received well across the community for ninjas because of a lot of quote-unquote nerfs to the skills that they we're going to talk about reworking. This included Murderous intent, which they increased by a 3-second CD, and that made a lot of people angry. And there were some other changes that people didn't really like overall, but what did end up happening is that there was a patch on KR that went the next week on that Wednesday that was a bunch of revised edits to that initial global app patch, which I think a lot of people actually liked instead of what they had done on July 7th. So these changes are what I'm going to go over, and this is the stuff that we're going to get live here in a couple of days. So if you ever wanted to see what to expect out of this, this is the perfect video for that. First on the list is the new Chaos Spree rework. This skill originally lacked any real offensive capability since it was a stationary funnel guard that offered no real damage or utility from it, even in PvE. The new reworked version tries to address these problems by being a good skill to chain and flow after strong damaging skills like Serpent or Shadow Slash. The downsides of this skill are still similar to the original Chaos Spree in that it makes it susceptible to attacks from behind or to skills that go through guard, but it's still a much better skill overall, and with its lowered CD to 10 seconds, it's a great DPS filler skill. Chaos Spree also has a few skills that it can flow out of, such as Serpent, Flashing Light, Mach Explosion, and Shadow Slash, with Shadow Slash being the standout one since it can be used as a really good PvE flow combo, since the skill flows allows you to hold SE, just the keybind for Chaos Spree, into Q, which is Shadow Slash, for a quick frontal guard into dash combo that will turn your camera around to deal the finisher, which it is the Chaos Spree damage rollout. Chaos Spree now can be used as a good finisher or even as a combo starter to kill your opponents. If used as a finisher, its new 25% BSR version will add a minus 50% movement speed debuff to your enemy for 5 seconds, and if they happen to survive that initial combo, it'll make killing them or re-CCing them much easier. Now for our combo starters, here are a few examples that I came up with that could be useful on day 1. For mid combos and finishers with 25% BSR and without, here are a few of those. Flashing Light has been one of our best skills when it comes to starting combos, finishing off players or even using it as a semi-protected skill to survive. What these changes aim to do is move its role to more of a protected damage filler that can also be used as a safe movement that will keep you alive much more comfortably than before. The first change that has come to Flashing Light is also one of the most controversial. They removed the 9% evasion debuff that was originally on the skill and moved it to Serpent's Ascension. I will cover that in a later part of this section, but while this removes its main ability as a combo starter with the evasion debuff, it also has so much more to offer you in terms of usability with its changes. Flashing Light was always plagued by the huge unprotected gap that the skill had after its initial iframe was finished that could get you CC'd constantly, since a lot of ninjas would bank on not getting it caught in between that iframe and damage rollout, myself included. What they've decided to do is give Flashing Light a super armor after its initial iframe, so now that you have a fully protected iframe into super armor and then damage, and this has a versatility in every aspect of PvP. The trade-off of losing that evasion debuff and having the gap close instead is a huge plus, and I would definitely take this version over the old one. For the new damage numbers they gave us, the skill now has 100% crit in PvP, as before it was only for PvE, and so this will definitely be something that we will notice in terms of damage, and the fact that the change numbers actually give us an increased amount of damage will also be huge for us. For Mach Explosion, they have removed the frontal guard effect and added a super armor one instead, while also removing the stiff, which will now only be for PvE. They also gave the skill 100% crit as before, and this will also be applied to PvP. And they also have changed the damage number slightly, so now it will do more damage, and also have reduced the cooldown by 2 seconds. For Vacuum Slash, they have removed the frontal guard, which I didn't find too appealing, and instead they gave it back its float and then a down smash at the end of the skill for flows. Overall, this is not something that I would have really liked, but considering everything else we got, it's something that I don't mind too much. But they gave the skill 100% crit as well, and they also changed some of the damage numbers so that it does a little bit more damage. But I think the biggest thing that they have added for this is that it can flow after Serpent if you hold down F, which gives it the big explosion at the end, and this is something that a lot of us could end up using as a flow. For Serpent's Ascension, the 9% evasion debuff has been added to this skill, which was originally on Flashing Light, like I said earlier. And then they have also removed a critical hit rate buff that this skill gave, and they have changed it over to Shadow Slash, which is the Awakening version. And then they also reduced the cooldown from 9 seconds to 7 seconds, which is going to be huge for us. With the 9% debuff on Serpent's Ascension, a lot of our openers are going to end up being with Serpent now. Instead of Flashing Light. I felt like it was a lot better on Flashing because it wasn't a CC, so you were able to start combos off with it and have the evasion debuff early on. But this isn't really a bad change overall because Serpent is one of our main damage skills, and being able to have the debuff immediately when using that skill can be seen as beneficial. For Murderous Intent, this is going to have the most controversial change out of everything. And that controversial change is the cooldown being increased by 3 seconds originally. On Global Lab, on that July 7th update, it was at 6 seconds, but with this KR revised version, they brought it down by 1 second, so now it's at 5 seconds, so it's a 2-second increase. Now, originally, with the first changes they did on Global, this wasn't really well received because we didn't really have all these changes that we have now on the KR patch, but the stuff that we have now is definitely good enough to warrant this change, and I'm not as upset as I was originally with a change like this on the cooldown. And a lot of the stuff that we got, I think, overshadows this this cooldown increase, and they even lowered it by 1 second, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But in terms of the changes they've done to MI, they've made it also to using like Shift L and B in pre-awakening, the hotkey that it is in awakening. If you lock the skill Ankle Cutter, you can use MI from pre-awakening to transition you to awakening, which I thought was really cool. They also made it so it has a now minus 20 debuff for DP instead of 15. Originally it was 15, so now you can put minus 20. And then they also made it so it goes from a tier 1 add-on to a tier 2 add-on, so you can add a minus 20 debuff from the skill itself, and then a minus 15 DP debuff on the add-on, since now it's a tier 2 add-on, so you can get a total of 35, which is insane. And then they also kind of nerfed the transition stance bond super armor, but with the increased cooldown, I don't think it's really worth running that bond anymore, and I think there's better options. For Shadow Slash, they made it so we can flow with Chaos Spree as I showed earlier, and then they also moved the critical hit rate from Serpent to Shadow Slash. For Corrupt Sword Dance, they changed the cooldown from 7 seconds to 5 seconds, and this is going to be huge for us since our MI is now a 5-second CD instead of 3, so this will be really helpful for filler movement. And I think a lot of people should start using this for more of their like mainline movement, and I think it's going to be a great change overall for us. For Seamless, it's another small update. They made it so the melee AP that you would get for 10 seconds that was giving you 10, they changed it now to give you 12 instead, so a 2 AP increase, and that's pretty much all they did with this skill. For Katana Shower, they've did a couple little changes to it. The main ones being that they gave the critical hit rate 100% to this skill instead of it being only in PvE. And then they also made it so that the 50% BSR gives 20 AP instead of increasing the hit rate, since this skill now has 100%. And they also gave it a 10% or 10 AP for 20 seconds when using the skill instead of the 10% crit hit rate. As I said before, with the skill now having 100%, it's kind of useless to have the critical hit rate. And I think this will be pretty good for having good AP buffs up all the time. And on top of that, they changed some of the damage modifiers for it to a little bit more, and I think we'll probably see a pretty noticeable increase on damage, especially maybe with the Bond. I think people will find it a little bit more noticeable, but not a whole lot of changes, but definitely ones that I think are good enough. For Shadow Slash, I'm gonna go through this in game, so I can kind of talk through the changes that they've done, because this is one of the biggest changes they've did to this skill. For Shadow Slash, I'm gonna kind of go through this in game and showcase it myself, and instead of just doing it through clips, because this change is kind of hard to describe since they've changed a lot of the fundamentals of how this skill is now gonna work and the flows that it has and everything. So kind of wanted to go more in depth with it. So this section might be a little bit longer. A little bit more freestyle. So the biggest thing they did is that they made it so it queues up faster and you can go into the skill quicker out of RMB, which is our transition stance. So what I mean by that, like the original transition stance into silent charge would look like this, like where you would go through that frontal and then you were able to queue up silent charge right after. So it was like a pretty long animation. You're having to wait that entire RMB into silent charge. And what they ended up doing is that they made it so you can instantly silent charge out of RMB. So you can go like quite literally instantaneously out of RMB. It just matters how, or it just depends how fast you can actually click it. So if you ever like see me do this, this is like what I'm doing. I'm pressing RMB and then instantly silent charging out of it. So you only see like a fraction of the frontal. And this is going to drastically speed up our movement, and it's going to be insane to see how this skill actually starts to be used, because it's not only this RMB that you could flow faster out of. They added one to drastic or sudden decap, which is this skill. They did it for both the standing skill of it and then through seamless version, which is this one. You can silent charge out of both of them now, and what that means is like, so let's say if you were doing corrupt sword dance into seamless for the AP buff and then to decap for the frontal guard, you can silent charge instantly out of that sudden decap. So it looks something like this. See how you can silent charge like immediately during that skill? Like through any phase of that skill you can do that. So what you're going to be doing is like you're going to be disengaging, and then when you do silent charge or when you do sudden decap, you're going to try to silent charge immediately out of it when you're going into corrupt sword dance. So you do corrupt sword dance, seamless, sudden decap, and then silent charge in that skill. So you're getting the AP buff from seamless, the attack speed from decap, and then you're also being able to iframe out of that frontal, which is going to be really good for quick movement and getting out, and also getting pre-buffs. So I think one of our best disengages is going to be now with that skill of corrupt sword dance, seamless, decap into silent charge for the disengage, and then you can just go into MI or your bomb or anything really. It just depends what you have up at the time. And for the standing version of decap, there's a little catch to it. You can't actually immediately silent charge out of this skill. As you can see, like I'm trying to do it and it won't work. It only works through the seamless version of it. But there's a workaround with this that makes it basically like you're instantaneously doing it out of decap, and that's with seamless. You can silent charge out of seamless for some reason, so what people are starting to do is that you use it as a cancel to silent charge with decap. So what I mean by that is that, let's say you're in pre-awakening and you're doing a large movement combo, and you're going to go into awakening, you do decap seamless into silent charge, and that will basically instantly put you in awakening and then also into an iframe that you can use to disengage. And when it actually looks fast, it's really quick, and it's going to be one of our best swaps into awakening. The downside to it is that it's going to be pretty APM inducing, like, and what I mean by that is like you're gonna be pressing a lot of keys quickly, so you do down RB space and then shift W right after, and then when it looks fast, it'll look something like this. Oops, hold on 1 second. Like that. It's gonna go out really quick, so if you're able to get it up to that speed, it's going to be pretty good. It's going to definitely take some practice. I'm not even 100% with it yet, and I've been doing it for a couple hours, so it's definitely going to take a little bit. But I think the biggest thing that comes with this is the flow that you can do out of Silent Charge. So as you know, if you do Silent Charge and then Q, you can do this flow combo of Silent Charge into Shadow Slash, which is a very strong movement ability and damage ability. So what people will do now is, like, let's say you're doing a pre-awakening movement combo of like Ninja Step into Ghost Step, Ghost Greeting, Shadow Stomp, and then you'll do Sudden Decap, Seamless, Silent Charge, Shadow Slash, which is Q, and then a Ghost Step at the end. And it's gonna be one of our like better burst movement combos. It'll look something like this. Like that, and then you would just Ghost Step at the end of it. You can see how fast like that burst movement is, and it's gonna be insane for like AOS and like closing the gap on range classes. I'll definitely be using this combo a lot. This Stunning Decap Seamless into Q Ghost Step. It's gonna take time to get used to. As you can see with the keyboard, you're just pressing so many keys so fast. It's gonna take a little bit, and then I mean, obviously if you're doing it like every day, all the time, like for long hours of PvP, it's gonna start hurting your hands. So I wouldn't worry about it too much learning it, but if it's something you want to actually try to master, I would definitely recommend it. As you can see, like the potential you have of it is going to be really huge, and I think overall it would be worth taking the time out of your day to try to learn it. As you can see, I'm still struggling a little bit with it, but with time, I'm on the global lab, by the way, so my ping is like 150, so it's going to be a little bit harder, but when it's actually on live servers for NA and EU, it should be a lot easier for you guys to actually pull it off than doing it on a global lab. But as you can see, super strong movement, and then coupled with the Corrupt Sword Dance seamless decap version, this is going to be also really good. I think overall this update is just a great change for Ninja. We're gonna get a lot of stuff out of it, and I think a lot of us should be pretty happy with the changes. The first initial global lab were obviously not that good, but these revised version that we're gonna be getting is definitely easily enough to make us happy, and I think we'll have a good time, especially with PvE, with Chaos Spree and all that. I think we're gonna definitely see an improvement overall in the class, and I can't wait for the changes. Now for a movement guide, once I'm a little bit more comfortable, maybe like a week in or so of these changes, I'm gonna be doing a more in-depth movement guide than this that I showcased with Silent Charge. I'm gonna try to go over combos that you can do with movement, how to like strategize what skills to use, and then like scenarios where I use certain movement. Basically kind of like that original video I did with the loot movement guide, but a lot more updated and more skills to put in between instead of just doing like those same 4 or 5 skills that I showcased in that old video. And then obviously to just update it, because I mean that video is like 3 years old, 2 years old or so, and I think a lot of people have been asking for a new one, so that next video that I'll be having, either this next video or the one after that one, will be the new movement guide, and I hope you all stay tuned for it. If you ever want to watch me live or ask me questions, I do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/BlockJump. If you ever feel like you need advice or anything, you can ask me there or join my Discord server that I'll have in the description. So, I mean, that should be all. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment, join the Discord, or follow me on Twitch, and I will see you all guys in the next video.